She laughed when she said it, like it was just a joke, like it didn't slice clean through bone and marrow. At least if this one doesn't work out, she said, raising her champagne flute with that smile she saves for manipulation. I've always got my backup plan. The room laughed. Not everyone. Not my mother. Not her Uncle Peter, who actually choked a little on his wine. But her bridesmaids did, loud, almost in chorus, like they knew the script. And so did her parents, seated just a few feet away, all decked out in their matching silver and navy. Not a wince. Not a blink. Just polite claps and hollow smiles. She didn't look at me when she said it. That's the part one keep coming back to. I stood there, tucked up, freshly shaven, chest still rising and falling from the stress of the vows we had just exchanged. My hand still carried the warmth of hers from the ring exchange. And in front of 100 guests, she didn't even glance at me when she called me the backup plan. Just turned her head toward the crowd, soaking in the laughter like applause. I should have known. And maybe I did. The signs were there. You always see them later. How her phone would go dark at night, flipped screen down. The way she stopped asking me about my day. How she once said, "You're the safe choice." That's a good thing. I believed her. Thought it was a compliment. Thought I was being loved for my steadiness, my loyalty. Not pitted for them. God, I was so naive. We met 6 years ago at a mutual friend's Halloween party. She came dressed as a flapper from the 1920s, all sequins and sass, and I was a firefighter. I wasn't even supposed to go. I had work the next day. But one smile from her, one sarcastic jab about how cliché my costume was, and I was hooked. She had this spark, untouchable, untamed. I told myself I was lucky to be near it. Over the years, I became her rock. That's what she called me. Her stability. She leaned on me when she didn't make partner at the firm. When her brother crashed his car and she needed someone to co-sign the loan. When her ex reappeared 3 years into our relationship and she just needed closure. I waited. I supported. I forgave. I was, in her words, the kind of man women are supposed to marry. Now I know that's just code for dependable, boring, always available. We fought 2 weeks before the wedding. Not loud, not dramatic. Just one of those conversations where everything feels too polite, like you're both reading from a script. You're distracted, I said, trying to keep my voice level. You're pulling away from me. She looked at me like I was a child pointing out a broken toy. I'm just overwhelmed, okay? It's a wedding. It's normal. Stop overanalyzing everything. But I wasn't overanalyzing. I was noticing. How she never said, "I can't wait to marry you." How she chose the venue without me. How she referred to the wedding as her day, not ours. And now here we were, 2 hours into the reception, her words echoing across a hotel ballroom, dressed in fairy lights and overpriced floral arrangements. My backup plan. That's what she said. That's who I was. I looked around. People were smiling, sipping champagne, waiting for the next joke, waiting for me to laugh along. But I didn't. I walked over to the DJ and asked for the mic. He hesitated. Poor guy thought I was about to make a scene. I guess I was, but not the kind he expected. I took it gently, smiled at him, and walked back to the center of the dance floor where she stood, now finally looking at me, confused. "I just want to say a few words," I said. The room quieted, like someone hit mute. She tilted her head, a nervous flicker in her eyes. "I'd like to thank everyone for coming." I started, calm, deliberate. Especially her parents, who were kind enough to help fund this incredible event. They smiled awkwardly, already sensing something shift. But more than that, I continued, I'd like to personally thank them for the engagement refund. There was a beat, a pause, the kind that lives in between lightning and thunder. Gasps. One woman actually dropped her fork. My mother covered her mouth. Her father blinked. Her mother turned pale. She stepped toward me. What are you doing?" I didn't answer. I just turned to the crowd and spoke like I was finally breathing clean air after years of choking. "You see, 2 months ago, I found out something. Something that broke me. I thought about confronting her then. I thought about canceling the wedding. But I wasn't ready." She whispered my name, panic setting in. "Stop. Not like this." But I was past stopping. Because this was the truth. And truth doesn't wait for comfort. "She didn't just call me her backup plan today," I said. "She's been treating me like one for years. And that's on me. I saw the signs. I ignored them. I loved her so much I accepted crumbs and called it a meal." I looked at her then. Really looked. "You wanted a public show?" You got one. I paused, and that's when I noticed something strange. Her face wasn't shocked. Not really. There was no confusion, no indignation. Just disappointment. Not in what I said, but in when I chose to say it. Like I'd ruined the timing of her story. And that's when I knew. She wasn't humiliated. She was relieved. Her shoulders slumped. Not in shame, not in defeat, but like someone had finally dropped the act and could breathe again. And that hit me harder than anything else she could have said or done. Because relief meant she'd already played this scene in her head, over and over. It meant she'd already accepted that I might break, that I might walk, that I might do exactly what I was doing. And she was fine with it. I stood there holding that mic, blinking at the woman I was supposed to grow old with, and all I could think was, she wanted out. Maybe not like this. Maybe not today. But she wasn't afraid of losing me. She'd already lost me a long time ago, or maybe never even tried to keep me in the first place. The silence in the room had turned from stunned to suffocating. I didn't plan to go further, but something inside me cracked open. A dam I'd been patching for years with patience and denial. So I kept talking. I used to think love meant staying, I said, scanning the room, pushing through, forgiving the cold shoulders, overlooking the late nights, making excuses for the empty looks. I turned to her again. I used to think I was the luckiest man alive. A small, bitter laugh escaped before I could stop it. But now I realize I was just the safest bet. A few guests shifted uncomfortably. Her cousin Emily, the one who always gave me the side eye like I didn't measure up, suddenly looked very interested in her wine glass. One of the groomsmen coughed into his sleeve. She stepped closer to me then, lowering her voice. Please, not here. Can we talk outside? Just us? I shook my head. Why? So I can make this easier for you? I didn't mean it like that, she said, eyes pleading. It was a joke. Was it a joke 2 weeks ago? I asked. When you told your friend Monica that if he ever came back, you'd figure something out. Her face froze. Yeah, I found that text. Monica had been a mistake. She forgot to delete the thread. A thread where my name was mentioned exactly once. Not as her fiancé, not as her love, but as the stable one. Plan B. The fallback if love doesn't return. The fallback. The wedding guests were watching like it was theater now, horrified but unable to look away. I was there for you, I said, my voice low. When he dumped you. When your job fell apart. When your sister OD'd and you locked yourself in that hotel room for 3 days straight. I came. Every time. No hesitation. She opened her mouth to speak, but I raised my hand. I waited, I said, for you to love me back the way I loved you. Not perfectly, just honestly. I would have taken messy. I would have taken scared. But you gave me fake. The DJ looked like he wanted to sink into the floor. My mom was crying. Her dad was staring down at the tablecloth like he could disappear into the stitching. Her voice cracked. You don't understand what I've been through. I nodded slowly. No, I don't. Because you never let me in. You let me orbit. You gave me just enough warmth to keep me from floating away. I handed her the mic, gently. You can tell your side now, if you want. She didn't take it. Her arms hung limp at her sides, the bouquet she was supposed to toss later now dangling like dead weight. I turned to the guests. I'm not here to ruin anyone's evening. Please, enjoy the food, the music. It's all been paid for. Then I looked at her parents, including with the refund from the ring. You'll find the check in your mail next week. Consider it severance. She flinched at that, but still, no tears, no apology, just that same stunned, empty look. Like she couldn't decide whether to be angry at me for breaking the illusion or angry at herself for not doing it first. I walked out. No suitcase, no plan, just me, my shoes echoing across the marble floor of a ballroom built for a fairy tale that never existed. Outside, the air hit colder than I expected. I stood on the curb, loosening my tie, wondering what the hell had just happened. I should have felt triumphant, like I'd finally taken control, but all I felt was hollow. Until I heard a voice behind me. She was never going to choose you. I turned. It was her Uncle Peter. He looked at me with something close to pity, or maybe regret. She loved the idea of you. The safety, the applause she got for finally settling down. I didn't say anything, just waited. She thought that if she put on the dress, said the vows, maybe it would come. The real love. But it didn't. You can't fake that part, no matter how many people clap. Why didn't anyone tell me? I asked. Why let it get this far? He sighed. Because you were the only one who didn't see it. And nobody wants to be the one to wake the dreamer. I closed my eyes. Then I laughed. Not out of humor. Out of clarity. Because maybe he was right. Maybe I was dreaming. Hoping that if I just worked hard enough, gave enough, forgave enough, I could build a life with someone who had already locked the door and thrown away the key. But that dream ended. With one sentence. One spotlight. And a mic. I didn't sleep that night. I wandered through the streets still half lit by wedding lights and traffic, my shoes scuffing against the pavement like I was dragging some old version of myself behind me. Every corner of the city felt louder than usual. Car horns, laughter, the clink of dishes through restaurant windows. Life, marching on without pause. But inside me, silence. Not numbness. Not pain. Just stillness. Like the part of me that had kept hoping finally gave up and sat down. I ended up back at my apartment. The one I never gave up, even after we signed the lease on the place we were supposed to move into after the honeymoon. Maybe I sensed something. Maybe a part of me knew this wasn't permanent. The place still smelled like old books and cedar. Still had the dent in the wall from when I dropped her moving boxes. I left it there. She had laughed so hard that day, sitting on the floor with a broken lamp in her lap, and I remember thinking, this is it. This is real. But that version of her, the one who laughed and stayed and let me in, I think she was already halfway gone. The fallout came quickly. Monday morning, I got a call from the venue. Apparently, she never signed the final catering contract. I did, which meant when everything unraveled, the florist, the photographer, the DJ, they called me. Not her. I paid them all. Full rate. No fuss. Not for her. For me. Because I needed closure wrapped in clean lines and paid invoices. I didn't want to be the guy who disappeared in anger. I wanted to be the guy who kept his word, even when hers meant nothing. She texted me 3 days later. You made your point. That was all it said. No apology. No explanation. I didn't reply. Her friend Monica messaged me next. She's embarrassed. She's hurting. She didn't expect you to actually walk. That one almost made me laugh. Didn't expect me to walk? I'd been limping for years. She just never noticed. I started therapy a week later. The therapist, a soft-voiced man named Grant, asked me one question in our first session that hit me harder than anything that happened at that wedding. Do you think you were in love with her? Or just in love with finally being chosen? I sat there for a long time, silent, because I didn't know. I had chased her like a man chasing the sun, thinking if I just got close enough, I'd finally feel warm. But you can't hold the sun. You can only burn trying. Weeks passed. The world forgot. Social media moved on. The photos we took never got posted. The announcement we never made, never had to be retracted. It was like we were erased before we ever fully existed. Then one morning, I opened my email and saw her name again. Subject line: closure. I stared at it for a long time before clicking. It was a letter. I shouldn't have said what I said, but I also shouldn't have said yes when I meant maybe. I thought I could grow into loving you the way you loved me. I thought stability would feel like happiness, but I always felt like I was pretending. And when I said you were the backup plan, I didn't mean to humiliate you. I meant that I was never ready, and you deserved someone who didn't have to be convinced. I read it twice, then deleted it, not out of anger, but because I already had what I needed. The truth. In plain text, she was never mine. Not really. She was just passing through my life, dressed as a forever, hoping something inside her would change. But it never did. And now? Now I'm not bitter, not heartbroken, just free. I still think about that moment sometimes, standing there in the center of a wedding made of lies, her voice ringing out. At least I've got my backup plan. And I smile. Because I wasn't the backup. I was the escape hatch. The final door she could slam before blaming the world for locking her in. But I walked out first. Not with a scream. Not with a scene. Just with a mic. And the truth. And sometimes, that's the best kind of ending. The quiet one. The clean one. The one where you finally realize your worth. Not because someone told you, but because someone couldn't see it. And you stop trying to make them. So here's to the toast that never happened. To the love that never was. To the man who left. Not because he wasn't enough, but because he finally knew he was. I was never the backup. I was the one who chose to walk, before she even knew what she'd lost.